I have like 2 coworkers that listen to the podcast, right? And then they were like, bro, the way you were like, not disrespect, just because that's how I always talk about like how employees talk. Because he's a cool dude. So Alex, don't think I'm making fun of you. I'm not. But he was like, bro, like the way you were like, the kids at Target, and I was like, oh yeah, those hooligans and lollygagging. And he's like, bro, those are like really good words to describe like what they were doing, because like that's a good word to use. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what came over me, because like I never say that. It's just like when the camera's on, it's a different Gabe.
I thought you were gonna say he was like, bro, that was me.
Bro, can you imagine? Just like didn't recognize him.
He's
Cheers.
like, yeah, I'm training.
No coffee review
Training
today.
the new generation.
We're just drinking it. I'm making homemade because I'm broke, and Ty's on that LA budget, so he got Starbies.
You know what's actually funny, bro? And I don't know if this is the same everywhere, but from what I've experienced in LA, Starbucks is actually the cheapest coffee branch.
Really?
Because I can go there, and I mean, I guess I feel like they have like more sizes than most places. Usually, like other places, it's either like small or large. They don't really have like the middleman, like the medium, you know.
The Grande?
But yeah, for the Grande, it's like it's like $4.95 for, at least for what I get. I mean, I don't know about y'all that be getting 20 pumps of everything. It might be more expensive.
This like the
But
create your
just
own.
for a Grande, like ice white chocolate mocha, it's $4.95, dollar tip. So it comes out to like $6 with a tip. Usually everywhere else I go, it's like $7 or $8 if you're leaving a dollar tip. Which, like, I know it's not that much. It's a freaking dollar. Like, I get it. But everybody was always talking about how Starbucks is, like, so expensive and crazy. And, like, I don't know. In my experience so far, they've actually been cheaper than most.
Okay, so here's the thing with that, right? Is that before it did used to be, like, the most expensive. Like, people used to always be, even I remember, like,
sure.
$6 for a cup of coffee. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But I think it's because Starbucks is such a big corporation that's been doing so, at least from what I'm aware of, so consistently well over so many years that they're able to keep their prices about the same, and like while everything else is going up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're right. Before mom and pop shops, you get a cup of coffee for like $4, $3, and now it's like $6 because they're trying to keep the lights on. You know what I mean?
That's true. That makes a lot of sense.
And I think too that drive-throughs. I think once I was talking to my friend Eric about this. Like COVID, like killed society, right? With making everyone homebodies, making people not want to go out and be social. They much rather stay in the comfort of their own home, be behind a screen and all that stuff. So I think the thing with Starbucks too is that they've nailed the drive-through for coffee, and like that's mainly what they do, right? Is sell coffee and like all that stuff. And a lot of mom and pop shops and other just normal coffee shops, like even like big ones like Foxtail, for example, that is at least in Florida, it's pretty big. They're everywhere. And I don't know a single one that has a drive-through.
That's true. Even the new one that just opened over there by my sister's house?
I haven't been to that one.
You ain't been there yet?
I haven't been to that one.
Oh, okay. Because I know that one it looked a little bit smaller, but I don't
But
think
even
so.
then, that's one
that
out
makes
of like
sense.
6 that I can name right now.
Yeah. So Starbucks was basically the first. They're like, if we're the first to inflation, then when everybody else follows and goes above us, we won't look as bad.
They're like, look, we're going to make
Smart
3,000% profit, but when inflation goes up, 100% profit's still pretty good too.
Yeah, it's I don't know, and I mean, I'm not saying they definitely don't have the best coffee. It's not my favorite, but it's not bad. I mean, I feel like they get a bad rap sometimes. I mean, people are like either love them or hate them. I don't feel like there's any in between, but I mean, I think it's good. If you just want a quick cup of Joe,
A quick cup of Joe. Well, before we started the podcast, we were giving another update on the beanbags that Tyler started saying, and I was like, oh my gosh, me too. And what'd you say, Tyler?
Well, so last night I was watching a movie in it, and
because the last episode, I think it was the last episode of the episode before that, we were saying how the beanbags inflate
I don't
themselves.
think we gave one. Yeah, that was the second episode,
Yeah.
I think. Which, yeah, I think so. Yeah, last time when I was watching the movie, it had like a spot in the middle that just seemed a little bit like almost like sunk in. And so I flipped it and it was like firm on the other side, but it wasn't like fluffing up. So this morning it wasn't like, back to normal either. So I fluffed it up and I got it like a little bit more like rounded and like 3-dimensional instead of just like flat. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to give you continuous updates to see if this is an issue. Because we were loving them at first. I mean, I still am. It's still super comfortable. Like, anytime I'm out in the living room watching TV now, like, I'm sitting in this thing rather than the couch just because it is really, really comfortable. So, it's good. We're testing the longevity. So, you guys are getting a whole, like living product review with this podcast. So, if that makes you want to subscribe, well, then, cue the intro and you can check us out.
Ladies and gentlemen, the show's about to start. Introducing Catchin Up Podcast.
Wow. Our intro never gets old. Never gets old. I love it.
No, I mean, I think that we can use that for a good 10 years and it would still never get old.
I mean, we would have to change some of the footage because I think we'll look very different in 10 years.
Same footage.
Can you imagine, bro? How funny would that be if it was like we're like, let's say like 50, right? Because I'm 24, you're 26.
Yeah.
That's crazy. We're getting old, bro. Not like you, like us. You know what I mean? Like we're both in our mid-20s. I mean, yeah. I'm still broke, it's just crazy.
Facts.
But anyways, so it's like you see like just like us right now, and then it cuts to the actual podcast, and we're like wrinkly and like. At least I know I will have salt pepper hair. You probably won't because of your dad's genetics.
Dang.
Yeah. You might be bald. You never know.
It'd be cool to do something like that where we have a clip from. I mean, it could be something where we do like a clip from each season. Obviously, once we get like enough seasons, not seasons. I mean, like years. I don't know. It's kind of hard to like figure out because, you have to work it in somehow. But I don't know. Yeah, that would be eventually cool to kind of like show the progression of the podcast in general. And like, I'm sure our setups will change at some point as well.
I hope.
But then also to see like really the aging and the style even and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's not even gonna be us in like 10 years. It's just gonna be our AI versions, just making a podcast. We're gonna do deep fakes.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, we're gonna be like chihuahuas, just talking.
Not chihuahua. 2 dogs, just like chopping it up, talking about coffee. I mean, honestly, you could probably do that now. I'm sure there's a way to. Remember the one I showed him before. When I was editing our old podcast, like when the AI stuff first came to one of my editing apps, it was like you could basically like overlay us and it would like just like cartoon you or this or that, but it made us into like a Ken doll or something. You remember that?
Yeah, because we were sexy.
And he was like, bro, we should do that. And I was like, I mean, it's cool, but...
Look, I think we should do that. But I also, look, okay. Just from like a business perspective, right? At least this is how I think. I could be completely wrong, and please let me know in the comments. But a lot of like things that blow up are not catered to kids. So I was like, what if we made an animation version of our podcast? Because we're a clean podcast. Like we don't curse. We don't talk about anything too crazy. You know what I mean? Like maybe a 5-year-old shouldn't be listening to our podcast, but because there's like no value. You know what I mean? But like if we had an animated version, like it's visually appealing too. Like it's a lot more engaging than us just sitting
I mean, of course. But one, I genuinely probably like don't care to appeal to a super young audience.
Okay, well, if you find a 25-year-old that'll buy our merch, I'm down.
And 2, I think that would be cool. Like it's a really cool concept, and I haven't seen it done yet. So it would be cool. I think it would you would have to have like a different. Like you'd have to talk about like cartoons and stuff. You know what I mean?
No, bro, it would be like a clean Family Guy. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, but then you'd have to be telling jokes.
Yeah, and you're not funny, so
And we know you don't have them on deck.
I don't. So one thing that you'll learn about Tyler and I, or at least me, I don't know how much this applies to Tyler, is I don't do jokes. People don't laugh with me, they laugh at me. So I'm just a silly, goofy dude. That's a little dumb. So like, it's funny. But I'm never like knock knock.
Yeah,
you know?
but right. Yeah, exactly. It's not like you're not out here like telling a joke, but like I mean, I feel like inherently that is kind of how I am too. I don't necessarily think of myself as like that. Like I like quick to like be jokes or super witty, but it's kind of like the things in which I do or like, just the random stuff we do is usually like more funny than actually like
than real
something
life
we say. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. But that is interesting. There are a lot of different types of funny out there. But anyways, I know that, you were saying last week you wanted to maybe touch upon some life experience type stuff or do a little chat or whatever into the more, I guess just, thinking about life advice and things like that. This is just an experience I had, so I figured I'd bring it up and maybe it could catapult us into that area. Into
Absolutely.
that zone,
Let's do it.
into the moon.
Like
So I had
Dogecoin?
that it went to the moon, but then it went down.
I think it
was
made
like,
it to like the atmosphere.
I was,
and then just
yeah.
the ozone
I should
layer.
have pulled out the last words of. Never
But
mind.
Bitcoin's
Anyway,
going up,
I know, and Ethereum, which I had like eighth of a coin too, but I don't anymore. So it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So I had a commercial audition. I think it was like a week ago, and it was basically one. I mean, I won't give away too many details, obviously, because I can't. But I basically had to like make up this. They gave me like a prompt, and I basically had to like improv it, act it out, like basically figure it out for myself. There wasn't a script or anything.
That's cool.
So I basically just had to like work through it, which they're fun, but it's always just like you never really know what exact because they're sometimes not the best at describing it, But anyway, so I do it, and like I had a lot of fun with it. I was like, okay, commercial audition, I can have fun with it, and like. I don't really know. They're saying like upbeat, energetic. So I just had like a really good time with it and was like, all right, I'm gonna send it in. And so I sent it in. And then I went to the gym. And like as I'm at the gym, I see I got like an email from my agent and it was like feedback from casting director. And my first thought goes, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I messed up. I'm gonna have to reshoot it. Like they're not happy with it. Like my mind automatically just went to like negative.
Of course.
Yeah, because you're like, there's no way it could be good, There's no way.
Well,
no
also
way.
like from like an outside point of view that's not in the acting world, like I would think like if you're giving notes, it's like more likely you just didn't get the part.
Yeah. Well, that's what my ultimate point will lead to, but well, in a way, no. But anyways, yeah. So I like open the email. And I'm like, all right, let's see what they have to say. And they were actually just super complimentary, which like one never happens. So I think I did have kind of the right assumption in a way, right? Because it's like usually like you never hear from casting. Like they're too busy. They're working on too many things, seeing too many auditions. Like they just don't have the time. But the lady was like, he turned it in super early. And he was really natural, and he brought like a super fun, unique energy to it, and he really just had fun, and that's exactly what we're looking for. And so that was really cool. It felt like really good to finally be like, not saying that, you ever need it as an actor, but it's nice to hear back from casting that like you're doing good. But I just found it funny because I'm like, my first thought was to go like negative. And I'm like, think of how many people do that in just their everyday life where it's like their boyfriend or their girlfriend are like, hey, can I like talk to you later about something? You're probably like, oh my gosh, they're going to break up with me.
The worst.
But it could just be like, hey, maybe they just want to have like a conversation about something they're going through, Or like your boss is like, hey, I need to talk to you. Oh my gosh, I'm getting fired. Or it could be like, hey, maybe I'm getting a raise, and of course it could be one or the other. There's no guarantee, but I find it funny how, as I think as society, we've just become so negative minded, especially like with social media and just in the way things are that like, I feel like most people will have that negative first thought instead of that positive first thought. And I think it's finding a way to try to switch to that, because it's like that would create so much less anxiety and like depression if you weren't like thinking about these things all the time in such a negative light. If you're like, hey, or if you could just go into it like, I don't know, they want to have a conversation, like I'm not going to make an assumption on what they do. And it even plays into the fact of like, when you're playing out fake scenarios in your head of like different things, with conversations you need to have with people, or a talk you need to have with a friend or something like that. You like play out all the different scenarios and, oh, if it goes this way, and it's like, we can never predict what's going to happen. So why are we always automatically putting that negative connotation on what's coming next, Or maybe it's just me, I mean, it could just be me.
I think it is just you, honestly. I've never really heard.
Okay, I'm alone in
No,
this boat.
I mean,
That's cool.
obviously, I don't think it's everyone, but I do think
Yeah,
it's
for sure,
like majority. I think it's at least like 80% of people think like that. I borderline think it's almost natural to think like that. I'm not saying it's like a good natural. I think it's more of just like how society works and like how life like just plays out. It's never how you anticipate it to be. So then, it is literally a saying, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And then, and yeah, dude, like, it's draining. And that's something that like I personally have been actually trying to work on recently. I got a book. It's right there. Hold on.
Said I got a book I'm writing.
It's no. I thought about it and I was like, no, I can never. But the book is called "Winning the War on Worry," and it's just like how to like not worry and like just like let things. At least for me, like I'm religious, so like it's a lot easier to like give things to God, because when you realize that. And whatever you believe in, I'm not like forcing anything on anyone, but like whenever, like Tyler was saying, you don't know what's gonna happen. Yeah, maybe you're gonna get fired. Maybe you're gonna do this. Maybe maybe your house is gonna burn down and everyone in the world is gonna die in a fiery explosion. I don't know. You know what I mean? But it's so much more draining to go through all that in your head than to just experience life as it comes. And a lot of the times, like people, like I know I struggle with this, where it's like I do music, right? I don't want to like I will think about recording a cover and then posting it on social media, but then you start thinking of like all the possibilities of like the negatives that could come with that.
Yeah.
What if I don't do
Yeah.
good? What if I think I sound good and other people don't? What if no one likes it? What if no one comments? What if no one, like, you never know. But then how often do we think of the goods? You know what I mean? And I think that's a great
what
example.
What if this leads to a career? You know what I mean?
I think that's a great example, bro. Is like, I think we all need to start normalizing like thinking the best to help rewire our brains. You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna think about the negatives, you got to think about the goods too. And like I've been trying to do that recently, where it's like, oh, man, like today I was setting up for the podcast, like everything was stressful, all that stuff. Like my room was a mess. All the wires were getting tangled up. I couldn't get the right angles and stuff like that. And I'm like starting to get frustrated. I'm like, man, this is going to be a terrible podcast today. I'm not even feeling it anymore. But then it's like, okay, no, it's still a good podcast. Like it's whatever we want it to be. Like, you just think positively. And then like, now I'm chilling. You know what I mean? And it's such a damper.
Exactly.
It can be such a damper on your mood and like your work ethic too. Like I have never posted a cover because of those negative thoughts and those negative assumptions. You know what I mean? But I should. Everyone should. Everyone should take that one little leap. And like, you know what? Sometimes it's going to blow up in your face, but it's life. And then at least now you know. And now you don't have to assume.
Yeah, exactly. And I saw this interesting thing it was a couple of videos I saw on TikTok recently. And I don't know if it's just I don't know if it's just like trending to talk about or whatever, but it was these guys explaining, or like they were just talking about how your friends are sometimes, or like the people that you know or have come to know over time are like usually the ones that are least likely to support you on your like creative endeavors or whatever your journeys in life, which is really interesting. And they were like, it's because sometimes like they have this perception of you as like just you. Like, for example, he's like, let's say you're the funny guy. Like in high school, you were always the funny guy, like always making people laugh, always kind of doing pranks and like always having fun. And then like you get to going to college, you're like, okay, it's time for me to like, settle down. I need to figure out what I want to do. I got to kind of, maybe you find a passion and you start going towards that. And you're not this, you're still the same person, but you're not like, the same things aren't as important to you. Like, it's not important to be the funny guy anymore. It's not important to be this. Like, you grew up a little bit, you matured a little bit. Now you're doing something with focus and passion and like
you changed card.
Yeah, and it's like, and they don't see you as that, so they only have this one idea and perception of you. And like when you change and when you focus and when you start to settle down, like it's like, oh, well, what happened? Like, why are you this guy? Whoa, you don't want to have fun anymore, or this and that. And of course, there's different levels and degrees of this, but it is just interesting because you see, even like with us, bro, like, and I'm not saying it's like all of us, like we do have some very good friends that actually do support us and watch the podcast.
Shout out Jay Shed.
But yeah, for real. But it is like a lot of the times, like if you look at it, bro, like, I mean, not even just to put it as a personal perspective. I mean, we have like 37 followers as this recording speaks.
I think it's
right now
too.
on our Instagram. Yeah, it's like something. It's like anywhere in 35 to 45 range. And I don't know about him, but I'm like, I have over 1,000 followers, friends on Instagram. Like, I'm not saying that's a flex or anything. I'm just saying like in general. And I think he's like around the same. And like we both have like posted on our stories and like shared the podcast and be like, hey, we'd appreciate like a like and a follow. And we have like 45 followers. You know what I mean? So I'm like,
in theory,
like,
we
I'm
should
not saying
be
all
almost
those
3,000 right now.
Yeah, and I'm not saying all those 1,000 people are like people that I know. I'm sure I have a lot of just it's Instagram. You get a lot of random followers. But it is crazy. It's like, you can kind of see who follows and it's like, oh, like, you didn't get as many people as you thought would. And it's like, no shit. Like, I don't, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But I do find it funny that it's just like, we get to kind of experience that because we actually are doing something in this social media realm where people can follow you versus like with the acting stuff. Like, I mean, besides, people that I talk to on a daily basis, I don't know who supports me in that or who thinks I'm going to make it or who thinks I'm going to don't make, or who thinks I'm not going to make it or who thinks I'm dumb for doing it or who thinks I'm smart for doing it. Like,
for sure.
Those are really more personal conversations. But with something like us, what we're doing with social media, it's like, we can actually see like who's actually showing up to support, who's actually like trying to help us out and liking our videos and stuff like that. So it is interesting to kind of see. Right, exactly. So, we get a little taste of that, but I do find it funny. And I think it is something it is a weird thing in society that, once, I don't know, your friends, you lose this perception of them. It's like they're last, because they also know you, bro. So they have a judgment on you. And it's like these random people that like follow you and become your fans. Like, they don't know us. They haven't known us. Oh, the only perception they have is us on this podcast.
Which is not different from reality. If you meet us in person,
for
this
the
is
most
exactly
part, yeah.
how we are.
I mean,
but I agree. There's still stuff
exactly.
we don't say on the podcast. There's still stuff we don't joke. Like it's still a different element, but that totally makes sense, bro. Like, I actually have a story that like lined up perfectly kind of with that, where I was at a wedding one time and this leader from my old church was like there, and I loved her. Like, she was like one of my leaders for years and all that stuff. And I hadn't talked to her for like about 2 years at the time that I saw her at the wedding. And she was like looking at me some type of way. And I don't remember the specifics. How they always say like, you never remember what someone says, but you always remember how they make you feel. This was like a perfect example of that, where she basically said something and treated me as if I was the same 8th grader. And when this conversation was happening, I was 22. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm a completely different person, completely different everything. You know what I mean? Like, if you're the same as your 8th grade self, that's probably not good. You know what I mean?
It's probably an issue.
Yeah, but it's just crazy because like that's a perfect example of like they have this perception of you, and it doesn't matter like. Perception is a perception, you know what I mean? So it's like they already have this fully developed opinion of you, and it's so hard to break that mold. It's so hard. Like, think about it. Like, I'm sure you have people that you don't like or you think is, whatever, and then they're trying to prove to you the opposite, and you're always going to be like, yeah, but I know that's inside somewhere. Like, that little guy didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. I do find it crazy, bro, that it is like the thing you were you were saying about perception, it's like, think about it. There are so many people out there who probably think like, who have only had a couple of interactions with us, and like, who knows? Maybe it's when we were out at the clubs together. Maybe it's a girl we dated in the past. Maybe it's somebody we came across at Publix. Like, I still have people all the time that like, oh, my mom knows me from Publix or whatever, and it's like, that's all they know of me. Or like, that's all that girl knows of me, and that's all I know of her. Or that's all I know of that one friend that I met, out when we went to Vegas, like a guy I met and we hung out with. Like, you know what I'm saying? For whatever example, like, there are some people out there that only have this small perception of you. And, think about it. Like, if we were to like, be successful on this podcast, people would be like, oh, like, I know this about them in a negative way, or it'd be like, oh, I know this about them in a good way. And like, either way, either perception could be like completely different than like who we are now, or like how we think now. You know what I mean? Because I feel like we tend to like lock people in. Like, let's say, you had a friend 4 years ago that's like, yeah, I'm voting for this person. And then you go online like, oh my God, can you believe he's voting for this person? But like, maybe his views changed over like these past years, or whatever degree that conversation would look like. But, it is crazy just to think that like people have specific perceptions of us based on the small interactions that we've had. And we all do it. I'm not saying like we have the same thing with other people as well. But it's crazy to think about, because I feel like that's what happens a lot of the times too with like, you see a lot with celebrities when like old exes come out or this or that. And like, I'm sure, like, listen, if somebody did something bad, they did something bad. But a lot of times like, oh, like, he used to be such a simp, or she used to be such like a naggy girlfriend or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, like maybe they grew up after that relationship, or maybe they, learned from that.
Or like what did you do to make them
right?
like that? Because that's always a thing too.
Yeah, exactly. So there's so many different things that go into it, but like a lot of the times we only get that one perspective. And so I just find it is crazy to think about that, though. Like, there are people out there that may love or hate us for different reasons that like may not even be who we are,
To piggyback off of that with the perception thing, kind of last night actually, my girlfriend and I were having a very like, well, I felt like it was intellectual. I don't know what she thought, but where we were talking.
This is the most dumb.
No, because like, look, if you know me, I'm very loud, I'm rambunctious, high energy, all that stuff, right? My girlfriend, although she's all those things, she's a lot more like, what's the best way to say it? Like a little more kept to herself, like, so if I say something super, like say something super loud in public, like she hates that. Like she hates it whenever I make loud noises because it draws unwanted attention to her. Understandable. It's who I am, so I don't know what she wants me to do about it. But I'm just playing. But so prime example happened last night. We were at downtown Disney. Oh, sorry. Oh my gosh, I am old. Disney Springs, not downtown Disney. We were at Disney Springs on a double date with my boy Tommy and his girlfriend. I'm not going to say her name because I don't know if she likes her name being out on social media. But anyway, so we're on a double date with them, and the topic comes up on like how I can do a really good dog bark. Like I can. And they were like, do it. And
it's
then
true.
I can. And my girlfriend hates it because it's so loud. Like, unfortunately, I can't do it like quiet. So and then they're like, do it. And then I did it a couple of times. And then we got on the topic of, I think it was like immaturity. I think like everything's so perspective based. Like, what is the definition of immaturity or maturity? You know what I mean? Like, I know there's like an actual definition in the dictionary, but like, how can you look at someone like me, for example, at Disney Springs, and I do a bark? Some people might look at me super. What is he doing? Why would he do that? That's so immature of him. He's 24 years old, acting like he's 5, blah, blah, blah. And then other people, like me, you probably, Tommy, that's funny. You know what I mean? I'm not over here like all these other kids, like punching someone in the face for a video, or like the Chupapi Muñano guy, like no hate to him, but like that's also really annoying. He gets in people's faces. Like I was in my corner and I do one bark and that was it. And it's like, I don't think maturity is being straight and being quiet and all that stuff in public place. I think it's like time and place. Like, would I do that at work? Maybe. Would I do that? Would I do that at like a funeral? No. Job interview? No. right? Like that's in my head a mature thing to do, right? That's where like my definition of like knowing when and where. What makes it mature in to do it in public? And then I'm like, well, is it more mature to not care about what people think because at the end of the day it doesn't actually matter what other people think, or is it more mature to worry about what everyone thinks and have eyes on you and stuff like that? So it's so crazy how like no matter who you are, everyone has a different perception of you just because things mean different things to them too. And you might not even know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like I think
Exactly.
barking's funny. Well, my mom, I have no idea. You know what I mean? At home, probably. In public, probably not. But does that mean I'm less immature? I don't think so, but it might. It's all perspective. And I think that's like where people let things get to their head just like that, where it's like that'll like might ruin her mood for 30 seconds because like now she's like, oh my God, like stop it. Like, why would you do that? And all that stuff. And there's no hate and stuff like that. And obviously I don't try to do that on purpose to her. Duh. But it's just crazy how like perspective really is a thing and like you can't really do anything about it. And I feel like there's no right or wrong answer either.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, of course, bro. And I mean, there's so many different like things that like perspective applies to with everything. Even like you were saying with like the Papi Muñaño guy, or like people on TikTok who go up and do like pranks, and like sometimes they're lighthearted pranks, but sometimes these people do some like spraying people down with a hose and stuff.
Yeah,
and I'm like, bro, that's crazy. But listen, like that's built them a career. That's making them money. People are fans of that. Of course, some people go on and comment, "Oh, that's immature. That's dumb. That's stupid." And I think it's both things. I mean, look, they're making a career, and it is stupid and like hurtful to some people's days and stuff. So like, there's that which way do you perceive it, But like for them, it's like, hey, well, this is better than me working a job, So like, it is interesting, and there's so many different ways you can go about that. But like, even to think about it, bro, like we could have let perception get to us. Like we had our podcast that obviously like was I would say like fairly successful with the set.
Sure.
We had a good amount of following on all pages, and we decided to start anew. And like we could have been like, oh, people are gonna think we failed and we're restarting now.
And some people probably
like,
do for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and people are probably like, oh, they just don't know what they're doing, and they're not good at podcasting, or like even when we would get hate comments and stuff like that. If you let that perception that other people push onto you get to you, then you're not going to be able to do anything in life aside from just working a regular job, because that's always going to be there no matter what you do in life. If you're doing something creative and you're doing something that's allowing you to level up in certain ways that others can't, that they're either too scared to do or they just don't have the drive to do, then they're going to hate on you for it, like regardless of what you do, whether it's acting, music, dancing, painting, singing, whatever it is. People are always going to hate on you. Even in your real job, people are going to be hating on you if you're doing better than them, or like you're getting more sales than them. Like there's always going to be hate. So if you let other people's perceptions and ideas of you bro, I got to get me some new headphones. This thing is crazy. Things last like 2 minutes.
I think I actually saw. I'll send it to you later. There's these earbuds that are JBLs, and they're like little ones like AirPods, and they seem pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think they were cheap, so I'll send it to you. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I really just need something because I have headphones for like the gym and stuff.
You just need something for the
podcast. But anyways, yeah, it's like if you let what people think of you dictate what you're going to do with your life, you're never going to be successful at anything. So, you really, yeah, of course there's the balance, and like his situation is different with like the relationship thing. Like, yeah, he's kind of got to not restrain that, but like, if he continually does it and she doesn't like it every single time, then he's not going to be able to do it as much. I'm sure if he does it every now and again, to certain degrees, but, just in general about like just doing things. Yeah, you can't care what people think, man. It's not worth it. It's not worth your time. And I think it's always going to come up, but you just have to fight it. And you just have to remember that like, everything you're doing is for you, And as long as you're doing things with good intentions and you're not doing it to harm other people or to, or to be something that isn't what you're trying to achieve, then like you're in the right. Like as long as you know that what you're doing is right for you and yourself, then you have nothing to worry about.
This is what I always say. I'm like, pick certain people that you do care about their opinions, because I do think that it's always good to have like some outside
Of
opinion
course,
perspectives,
definitely.
but only care about those specific ones. I'm not putting a number to it because I think everyone's different, but don't make it like 100 people. Make it like 5 to 10 people, you know? Like if these people, like
Yeah.
these are the people I'm going to listen to, these are the advices I'm going to take, and these are, because when you look everywhere, you get blurred and you get more confused, and it gets way worse because there's so many different opinions out there. You can't listen to everyone. I had this one guy, he told me when I was younger, he was like, if everyone loves you, you're doing something wrong. Because think about it, you're
Yeah,
not,
for
because
sure.
then you're also probably not doing anything for yourself either. Because like not everyone likes
You're
everything
catering
you
to
like.
other
Yeah,
people.
exactly. And like that's not, I mean, you know, if that's how you want to live, perfect, go for it. But like most people don't do that because it's not the happiest way to live. There's a difference between serving people and catering and like changing your whole life to be based off of other people. I think there's a healthy balance with that. But yeah, bro, I don't know. It's so crazy, especially now at this age with like cancel culture. It's ridiculous. Like ridiculous.
Yeah.
You can't do any, like I love to bring up, just because it was proven that it was false. Rex Orange County. He's a singer. I think you know him. Not like no, I mean maybe you know him in person. I don't know, but
I am out here in LA, so
yeah, you
you know,
never
I got
know.
some connections.
You're probably neighbors. But bro, the guy got charged. Got some allegations put on his name from a girl, and it like genuinely ruined his career. Like I have this like little set list for, in case anyone ever wants to hire me for a gig. You know, you can always email the podcast and it'll work too. But I had 2 of his songs on there, and like at the time of these allegations, like I had like 3 different people like look at my playlist and be like, "Why is this on here? He's a terrible person. Take this off. Like I can't believe it." Blah blah blah. Keep in mind, I didn't know about the allegations at this time, but then I'm like, okay, whatever. I took it off. Like 8 months later, it turns out it was all false, and I'm like, this guy's career is ruined, and it didn't even happen.
Yeah.
Like it didn't
Yeah.
even happen.
I think that same thing happened with Lil Mosey too.
Yeah,
Because
something
he
like that.
he got allegations, and then he was literally like, he was popping. Like he had some hit songs. He was really coming up, and then those happened. And I think his took like a couple of years, and then finally it was found that he, you know, wasn't guilty, and so he's starting to try to trickle back in. But I'm like, think about it. I feel like there, if everything's proven, you know, if you're proven innocent and you know everything's clean after that, I think you can come back. But one, you lose the momentum that you were having, which could have catapulted you. There's a couple years, or year, 2 years, or 3 years, however long it took, that you're never going to get back. And it's just like people are still always going to have this perception of you. Because with social media, like even if it, one, not everybody's going to read that you were proven innocent. Because not everybody cares to seek the truth. I mean, I think in social media, it's the latter. Like people actually would rather have a false narrative than the truth because it's more interesting to them. And it is crazy. I don't know the exact situation, but there's a guy on TikTok who does like angry reactions. And he seems like I've seen him like outside of the angry reactions, and he seems like a really nice guy, but he's this guy who like, he does like, oh, he's like looking all mad and like reacting to something. And I think he had some sort of allegations against him that I saw. And I believe he was proven innocent, but he's like, I'm not doing these anymore because like apparently is what's giving me this angry image. And, you know, now people are making these allegations against me that aren't true. So like, I can't do this anymore. I'm pretty sure that's what the story is. But to any degree, I'm just like, if you think about it, like it's just all it takes is one false accusation in this industry, and like it could set you back years. And even then, that will always still be a little asterisk on your name because, like I said, not everybody's gonna look and make sure you're innocent. Not everybody's gonna believe, even if you were proven innocent and you are. Not everybody's gonna believe that. They're gonna be like, oh, he paid. He's famous. He paid. He had money, which like I'm sure is true in some cases. I'm not saying that, you know, everything is always true, but like to a degree, it is kind of, you know, crazy that like people don't have to do their due diligence now. You know, they can just think whatever they want and say whatever they want. And like, since you can comment online things, you won't face any repercussions, you know? So it's just like, it's such a weird place with society and social media where like, you know, one thing can change the whole span of your career with like one false allegation.
I think it's going to get...
And it doesn't even have to be anything bad. It could even be like, oh, can you believe what they said? Like somebody taking an insert from like a cut from one of our podcasts and like they kind of like make it look like we said something. Like I've seen that a lot with like Joe Rogan podcasts. I mean, listen, I know that the dude has some very controversial takes and stuff on his podcast, but there was even one where there was like an AI that came out on...
that's exactly what I was about to bring up.
On him talking about like Disney or whatever, the underground caves or whatever he was saying. And it was AI. And I know people that have like said, like whenever I'd be like, oh yeah, I listened to a couple Joe Rogans. Oh my God, can you believe he said this and that? And I'm like, did you do research? Because that's not real. Like it's artificially made. And like the video, sometimes somebody reposts it and doesn't disclose that. So it looks like a real video. And I'm like, now you have that to worry about, of people making fake things of what you say and people believing it because they don't do their research. It's, you see a video, that's it, you're done. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, bro. I was actually just about to bring that up. I don't know what we're gonna do, like, as a society with this AI stuff. Yeah. Like, it's getting so good and so real and so fast. Like, last year is like basically around the time when like AI first started really popping off like mainstream. Yeah. And like, have you seen those images and videos that AI makes now? Bro, like it's like almost real, like genuinely. Like sometimes they said that like a lot of the times you can tell because of the hands, like AI doesn't know how to properly mimic hands, which doesn't help us. Like, how often do you see our hands in our videos? You know what I mean?
Probably
and bro, like, think about it. Between this podcast and our last podcast, there's hours, hundreds of hours of our voices and our laughs and our faces. Yeah. And like, anyone can use that. Like nowadays, you only need like 3 seconds of our voice, and there's hours of it. You know what I mean? Like, how do you prove that? Especially when they look so real. Like you can make fake text messages, like that's before AI. Like I can just text you and then change your contact name at the end and take a screenshot and make it look like someone else. You know what I mean? I can text myself and delete half, and then there it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy, bro. I think it's really gonna.
I think it's gonna stop a lot of creativity.
Crazy stuff all around.
I think it's gonna be the demise of everyone. I think it's either they're gonna have to shut it down or like everything's just gonna get ruined.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think even I forgot what it was. Like one of the people that's like worked on AI was starting to say that like some of the like tests are starting to become worrisome because of how like smart it's becoming and all that. And I don't know. I mean, listen, bro, like humans, man, we're very smart, but we're very dumb at the same time. So like, as much as like we've seen all these movies and like, bro, as much as people like to like probably not think this, movies I think do help predict a lot of what's going to happen in society, like Star Trek with all the talking watches and all that stuff, you know, like True. That all happened before those things were real. And there's many other examples, but you know, it's like we've seen AI take over in movies in not good ways, and we're still continuing forward at like this full speed ahead pace. And you know, who knows what measures are being taken to prevent it from going bad, or can they even prevent that? Will it eventually just take over itself? Time will tell, right? But it is just crazy to think that, you know, you can have doctored videos out there come out and people will automatically throw the book at you. But even it's like, even if it's not like AI, bro, I have one last thought on something. It's like people will, nowadays, I've seen it so much recently, like people on TikTok and Instagram are starting to become famous and get followers out of purely just hating on people. And I saw it really big with a lot of the Matt Rife controversy when he was going through a lot of his, you know,
backlash
jokes and stuff. And whatever you think about that is your opinion. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. But in my opinion, comedy is comedy. Comedy is comedy.
Agreed.
But But people were like starting to gain followers just because they were making videos talking smack about him and like online giving their, oh, he's terrible, he's this, he's that. And I'm like, how are you any better online trashing somebody, being completely negative when that's what, and you're like, so you're being a hater and you're getting fame off that, but you're better than this person for some reason. But then I even saw this guy who, he posted a video recently and he was like, oh, I'm a businessman now, but like I used to be a comedian and I was on my way up and then I had a meeting with these two executives and there was another comedian with me and they asked us to get on our knees and do you know what.
Oh, wow.
and he's like, and I left and I turned around and the other guy was already doing it to both of them at the same time.
Yeah, like,
and that comedian was Matt Rife. And
whoa.
I guess from what he claims is when he posted the video, he like made sure to say it was satire, which like I don't know if it was true because like when I saw the video, I didn't see any caption saying it was satire. So I was like, bro, this dude's obviously lying because I was like, bro, a lot of people think Matt Rife came out of nowhere. I've been following Matt Rife for like years, bro. He came up on In and Out. He came up on what's that Nick Cannon show? Wild and Out.
Wild and Out.
In and
I was like,
yeah, he came up on Wild and Out. And like even during the pandemic, bro, because I had followed him in his comedy, and like I would go on his lives, and like he'd be on lives with his homies, and like he would be talking about how like broke he was, and like he's struggling out in LA. Like the dude just didn't come out of nowhere. He's been at this for a long time, so whatever on that. But all that to say, you know, now you have people making these fake videos, and I guess like because the thing is, it doesn't even have to be the person who posts it. Somebody else can take that video, post it on their account to get followers. Like if you're a meme page or whatever type of page you are, and like you don't have to post that as satire. So Matt Rife, I guess I saw some news articles that he was gonna sue the dude for defamation, obviously, and the dude was like, "Oh no, like I said it was satire. Other people took my video and like made it seem like it was real," and I'm like, "Bro, that's scary in itself." Like, one, you shouldn't be making videos like that. Like, if it's satire or not, like, you shouldn't be specifically naming people because it's different when you're in stand-up. People know that you're joking. When you're on TikTok just talking to the camera.
No one thinks you're joking.
Sometimes people don't know who you are. People don't automatically, it's not always your fans. Like, it's on the For You page, if you scroll across a video and see that, unless you go and check that dude's page out, you might not know that he's a comedian or this or that, you know? So it's like, it's a different setting to be joking about something, but it's like other people can take your video, and if it clearly doesn't seem like your tone is joking, then people are going to obviously not think you're joking. And so now you're like, and I saw people in the comments, "Oh my God, I knew it. I knew this. I knew that. I knew he would do this. I can't believe it. I was right." And I'm like, bro, you guys are, nobody was clearly reading it as satire. And I'm like, now a bunch of people have this perception of Matt Rife doing this type of thing. And I'm just like, bro, that's insane to think about. And I'm like, I'm sure he doesn't, obviously, like, he's suing for defamation. That's the right thing to do. But Matt Rife has enough fans that I'm sure he doesn't care. He's selling out arenas. But at the same time, it's crazy to think that, like,
tarnishes your image.
Yeah,
like, that's
people
still something.
can think, yeah, people will think that you did that, bro. They're not going to go and do research. They're not going to go and create a mind or an idea on this topic. They're not going to form their own opinion on it. They're going to go off what other people are saying in the comments. And it's just wild, man. It's crazy to think about. Oh, it's scary, man. It's scary.
Yeah. And one thing that I've learned from social media is like allegations like that or stories like that people just take and run will make you lose money. You will have brands not work with you, even if they know it's not true. You just lost, or that door just closed. You lost an opportunity, however you want to put it, because of that joke, that satire, whatever you want to call it. Like,
yeah,
that's messed up. Like, that's crazy. Can you imagine not getting a movie because someone just decided to post a random video about you saying that? Like, that sucks. Like,
exactly.
It ruins people's lives. And it's like,
yeah,
it's detrimental, and it's super sad.
And that's what sometimes I was going to say, like, scares me about not doing the podcast, because, at least anymore, because we have very, like you said, we're not, like, doing stuff for clicks. We're not on here talking crazy. Like, you know, we're just having conversations with each other about things that we care about. But, you know, you never know. Like, we have the true crime stuff. People could go back and, like, doctor those different ways, or, like, say we were insensitive when, like, we weren't. We were just presenting the stories as they were. But people always have a way to flip a narrative if they want to. You know, people could even flip different narratives like this, you know, and say you know, our opinions are wrong or whatever. And some people will join them and some won't. But again, like you said, if in the court of public opinion, you know, if you have all these trolls against you, a lot of the times, like, that will get to the brands, you know, or movies or whatever, you know.
Bro, just think about the Mandela video that we did that I got so much hate for.
Exactly.
Like, just a little backstory, because I don't know if that video is even up anymore. I was just explaining on how Mandela effect got its name and, like, why it's a thing. Like, why we're always like, oh, that's a Mandela effect. Because I was just like, where did that come from? And then I just explained on how it became. And, like, so many people were commenting, you don't know what you're talking about. Don't talk about Nelson Mandela like that. And I was like, I didn't even talk. Nelson Mandela, like, I wasn't saying anything. You know what I mean? It was like, hey, they thought this. Yeah. And then it wasn't true, which I said, and then that's where they got the Mandela effect from, is because they thought this and it wasn't true. Well, he even
said in the video, yeah, he was like, he's like, I don't know how people thought this. It doesn't make any sense to me, or something along those lines. And people were like, oh my God, I can't believe you think this. Like, how would you ever think this? You have no right. And he's like, he like legit wasn't saying anything. He was just giving the explanation on how the Mandela effect came about. Yep. And it was because people thought Nelson Mandela died here, but he actually died here. But people have two completely different perceptions on that for whatever reason. I mean, we still don't know why.
And I said that.
But yeah, it was crazy.
And then, like, no, bro, like, so many people from, like, Africa were, like, just blowing up. Like, you don't even know. Like, you can't talk about this. Like, you're not from here and all that stuff. And I was like, it didn't even make sense on what they were commenting because it wasn't what my video was even about.
Yeah. Exactly. And, like, that's the thing, bro. Like, even videos like that where we have...
It was educational. Like, actually, like, straight up education.
Nothing's gonna happen. And then, like, this happens. And, like, not that it ever, like, you know, affected us in any real ways, because it was just, like, it had its little moment or whatever. That's it. But it just didn't make any sense. We're like, why is this even a thing? But it was a thing, you know? So it's like, you never know what's going to stir up this controversy, you know?
Yo, we need to one day, whenever we have fan requests asking for it, we need to go over the shark video.
Like what happened with it?
Yeah, bro. I think that's such a crazy story. If you want to hear about it, put it in the comments or DM us.
Yeah, we definitely can. I think it is interesting enough to.
I think it's long enough too that like so long.
You want
ago
a little
really
story time,
and it's not like talking smack. It was just like how social media can twist things and how people can twist things. Yeah. You know what I mean? It wasn't anything like super crazy realistically, but it was just like how people react. And honestly, like Kill 'Em With Kindness is a good example of that. Like it's a good example of like how to like set, you know, turn off fires. With your mouth.
If you want to hear that
with
story,
words, that sounded terrible.
Let us know. If you made it this far into the podcast in order to hear that. Hold on, we're going to do one more headphone switch before the episode ends. Yeah, if you want to hear that story, if you want to hear us go in depth on that, let us know, because then we'll know you're real fans and you're listening all the way through.
Actually,
that's what really matters.
Yeah. We're not going to get any comments. Watch.
But, you know, I think we yapped enough this episode, so maybe we should just, you know, call it truce.
Truce. Just for those people that watched the last week's episode, this is the shirt I was telling you about that like one family member absolutely despises. One family member absolutely despises, but I always get compliments on it. And the funny part
it's a nice shirt.
Is the next day I was visiting my girlfriend at work, so I wore this shirt, and once again I literally got like 6 different compliments on this one shirt, and it's just baffling to me. So let me know what you think.
Hey,
is this a nice shirt or should I toss it because it looks old?
See, perception's everything.
Perception's everything. Make sure...
That's the one takeaway from this episode.
Exactly. Make sure to follow us on our social media platforms, Tyler, what are our social media platforms? Do you remember?
Last
week you didn't.
It's Catching Up _podcast for Instagram, TikTok, and I think YouTube is Catching Up Pod.
Yeah, there's no cast.
Catching Up _pod.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, if you just follow us on the gram or you follow us on TikTok or wherever, we have the links in our bio and it links in our bio. You know, I think it's still the Catching Up Podcast on
I changed
Spotify
it. It's just Catching
Up.
Up Podcast.
So
now.
just Catching Up Podcast. I'm sure if you search any realm of Catching Up Podcasts, you'll
find
see us pop up somewhere.
Finally.
So yeah, but I mean, if they made it this far, man, they gotta be real listeners.
For real.
But anyways, if not, and if you are a real fan, you know, go ahead and share. Tell your friends. Tell your family, man. We want to hear everybody's thoughts and opinions and comments on the podcast and how you guys are digging it so far. So
yeah, we'll do a Q&A episode if you
know.
guys want to. I would like to do that.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Really cool.
I'd like to do that at some point, but we'd have to get more than just
30 followers.
Delaney asking us a question.
Yeah, that's true. And then if you're listening to us on like Spotify or any audio platforms, make sure to give us a 5-star review. That really helps us out a bunch. If you don't think it's a 5-star review, like I always say, still give it to us and just DM us on why you don't think we deserve it, and then we will make the necessary changes. Maybe. You know, it's still our podcast.
Maybe,
so
yeah.
We'll think about it.
We're
but we do
still-
listen to everything.
We're still chopping it up.
And yeah, I guess we'll tune in next week because we got an exciting boxing match that we can talk about for like 3 hours. That's coming up in July.
And for 3 hours?
No, not 3 hours. Probably like 10 minutes. But
I mean, I guess we could expand upon it that much, but
yeah, but
yeah, but we got we'll get back to the you know the what's
mainstream?
it called? Like the popular events.
Yeah, pop
possibly
culture.
next week. We'll see what we mix in, whatever comes up. But yeah, we'll see you next time. Have a great week, and
call your mom, call your dad, call your relatives
Yeah.
this week. Say hi. You
and
love
be
them.
nice to people. People aren't nice to Gabe, so you need to be nice to people to make up for it.
Or be nice to me. That'll make up for it too.
All right, peace.
Peace.